Chapter 41. Paris, France, late afternoon, July 12th, 1789. Marivel stared at Bill for a moment, perhaps searching for something of Phineus's noble bloodline within him, before returning to his seat beside the fire, motioning for Bill to join them. Bill plopped down gratefully as he accepted a glass of wine from the silent-footed maid. Marivel, eh? Bill regarded him suspiciously, looking back to Phinneus with a shrug. Who is he? He's Marivel, Phinneus repeated patiently. Bill, I just introduced you. Keep up. I meant, who is he to me? And why am I here, instead of home, looking for my wife, Uncle Phinneus? Bill snapped testily, tired from the long hot walk across town. Marivel is one of the first settlers of the planet Earth. Although 1,000,000 or so years ago, this planet was known to them as Atlantis, Phinneus explained reverently. So he's a time traveler like us, Bill probed. Well, yes and no, Phinneus winked. Marivel is something of a time detective, I guess you'd call it for lack of better modern terminology. Well, I didn't realize we had those, Bill frowned. And where was he when the Sanders were absconding with my wife? He was here. Phinneus gestured to the parlor in which they sat. In hiding, because of your friends, the Sanders. And Marivel is the last living Atlantean, and perhaps the only person who can track down the origins of the Sanders clock, find this Aunt Penelope, and put an end to this nonsense for good. Bill nodded. Any ideas on how? Yes, Bill, Marivel crowed, rising to face him. You. I beg your pardon, Bill choked. You, Bill. You're our only, well, not really our only, but our best hope, Marivel explained. Which is why I had your uncle call you here, to a very chaotic time and place where we could meet more openly. You see, you're in a unique position because of your proximity to and friendship with the Sanders. Proximity for what? Bill watched Poot sniff anxiously around the perimeters of the parlor where they sat. To find and visit every coordinate stored in the Sanders clock until you find this Aunt Penelope and lead us to her, Phinneus summarized. Bill huffed. And why would I do that? Marivel paced before the fire as he spoke. Didn't you say the Sanders inherited their time machine? From a distant relation, one Aunt Penelope. It must be how the Sanders came by it, this Aunt Penelope. So we must find her, question her. Whether or not this Aunt Penelope was truly a relation like Phinneus, or if the Sanders simply stole her clock, we have to find her. Find that moment where her clock changed hands. But your uncle can find no record of her in the future where you live. No history. We just don't know where to begin. You can be of great assistance, Phinneus added solemnly. Marivel stood straighter, a gleam in his eye as he lectured with a sweep of his hands. To give you some background, Bill, many thousands of years ago, my ancestors lived on Elos, a fractious, hostile planet where a small group banded together to steal a developing technology, a weapon, the first clock. They used this sacred time-space technology to travel here, to planet Earth, where for 10 millennia they lived simply in the place they called Atlantis, spreading out across the globe, rejecting technology and subsisting on the land, until their progeny began evolving once more. Society, farms, machines, pollution, politics, I'm afraid. All things hastening a cycle of natural cataclysms and rebirth. I have, since the fall of Atlantis, when the continents flooded and rose and rearranged themselves again, traveled the width and breadth of time to protect the first clock, the sacred timepiece. But the Sanders, no self-respecting Atlantean would ever steal to begin with. much less make such a mess of time. There were rules. Only the clockmakers and science council had access to the clocks, and none would dare travel to the past. It was strictly forbidden, but for rare exceptions such as this. You know what they say. The past is the past, and it's already happened, even if it hasn't, you see. Oh, clearly, Bill sighed. And when the Sanders at some point in the near future succeed in their quest and find the first timepiece, they will use it to open the portal from Elos to Earth and bring our violent ancestors' wrath upon us. You've seen that future, Bill, and you know what happens to Earth when that happens. And that poisoned future all starts with Aunt Penelope. So we must find her, and you, sir. Marivel smiled encouragingly. You must find a way to access the Sanders clock. Whatever you need to accomplish this, subterfuge, blackmail, jujitsu, threats, it matters not to me. But you must access their clock and find, now this is very important, Bill, the coordinate history dial. The who what now? Bill squinted as if to better understand, watching as Poot lifted her front paws and laid them upon Marivel's chest until he stroked her muddy head. The coordinate history dial, Bill. Your uncle will show you with my clock. Marivel pushed Poot gently from his lap, pointing to the imposing, sleek grandfather clock positioned centrally in the great hall. But all one has to do is find the dial with the infinity symbol upon it, and voila, clickety-click. Before he could elaborate, Bill caught Poot sniffing the rows of potted plants with great interest and excused himself. I'm sorry, but I need to take Poot out to potty. Any chance you've got one of those fancy maze gardens out back there, Marivel? Marivel motioned to the door from the kitchen breezeway. As a matter of fact. Bill escorted Poot through the dirty double doors to an overgrown garden with tiled pathways laid like veins through the heart of the foliage. Poot immediately darted after a rabbit, leaping over a three-legged garden bench and disappearing into an errant patch of corn growing behind a row of haggard sunflowers and wilting basil. Poot, Bill called, clapping his hands together as he poked into the dark heart of the overgrowth, trying to coax her back to the tiled pathway. Poot, get back here, girl. Bill moved further into the corn maze, the sharp leaves brushing his face as he hissed, Poot, come to Daddy, hearing her snarling playfully in the near distance. Poot pranced happily to his side, her tongue lolling from her mouth just as Bill heard an enormous crash from inside, and a series of alarming shouts in French, and another muffled cheer that sounded like his uncle yelling, Hooray, Bill! It's the French peas! Though Bill later realized, upon questioning the maid who spoke perfect English, it was his uncle shouting, Run, Bill! It's the French police! Instead of running, Bill grabbed Poot's collar and squatted down, camouflaged by the garden overgrowth, catching a glimpse of uniformed soldiers through the cloudy parlor windows as they subdued his uncle and Marivel before searching the ground floor, tossing papers and trunks full of books errantly about while Marivel protested. What's this about, then? I've done nothing against the crown. As the jailer's cart trundled away, the clomp of hooves fading to soft echoes, Bill crawled from his squat, his legs cramping, and hobbled back to the wrecked parlor to meet the wide, teary eyes of Marivel's maid, Delphine, picking sadly through the refuse. Poot dejectedly sniffed Marivel's overturned chair as Bill rushed to the open front door, helplessly watching the ox cart rumble down the pockmarked cobblestone road and disappear around a corner, one hand shielding his eyes from the setting sun. The maid, Delphine, was exceptionally fond of her employer, Marivel, who had only been in the country for a few years, but was inordinately generous with his time and money when he was unencumbered by the confusing vagaries of French politics. His frequent comings and goings, though mysterious, funded a regular wage and servants' quarters that were more than adequate for the short amount of time she spent there. The rest of her nights spent in her employer's unoccupied feather bed, where she slept like a queen when he was away, with nary a pot to clean but her own. And though there was something strange with that clock in the great hall, no matter. It was a cushy gig, and she'd seen stranger things from the ton. "But where have they taken them? What do I do?" Bill moaned as Delphine handed him his backpack, the rolled wetsuit tied to it with a length of hemp rope, now distinctly stinking of mildew. "I would imagine," the maid enunciated carefully, "you might find your uncle and Monsieur Marivel at the Bastille, where they take traitors, which is what the king's men called them when they took them away. It seems someone fraternizing with Jacobites in the park was seen coming here. Now Monsieur Marivel is in great danger, as the police believe he is supporting the revolutionaries, eh? And all on the day you arrive. Funny, no?" "No, it's not," Bill agreed, taking his things and turning to ask one last question as the door shut resolutely behind him, only to creak open when Poot was pushed out, the door slamming shut once more, followed by the clang of the deadbolt.